What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? My name is Roy Brown.
I'm Jerome Myers.
Jerome, and we got Lynch Hunt, who is here in spirit. We want to thank you for joining the Endgame podcast, man. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. And we're here, man. And we're just shooting the breeze before we got started. So what's happening, Jerome? How are you, man?
I'm great, brother.
Great.
Great, man. Grateful. Great. It's a really good time to reflect. Not only to reflect, but to think about what's next.
Because the end of the year?
Maybe because of the end of the year, but I think intentional reflection on the journey is a part of the process year long. I think at specific points you should take a break from the grind, if that's what you aspire to do, and spend time actually unpacking what you've done and figuring out if you're on the right path. Yeah. I think a lot of people just keep going because that's what they think they're supposed to do. They don't ever pick their head up, look around, and see if they're on the path that they actually want to be on. I think a lot of times we make assumptions and we assume that the conditions don't change, right, or that the assumptions are accurate. Right. And I think on the path you find out whether the assumptions are accurate. If the assumptions are accurate, yeah, you keep executing your plan, even if there is some resistance, some struggle. But for a lot of people, they just assume that, like, they picked who they were going to be at 7 or 8, and now they're 37 or 47, and they're still trying to become that person they wanted to be at 7. And you would think over the course of a few decades, you would have a different experience. Yeah, and you might want to change or pivot.
I have several friends who are physicians who don't want to be a physician anymore, but they are so far in, financially, time-wise, the whole family values. Like, my son's a doctor, but they don't want to be physicians anymore. So yeah, that's a great point. And I guess along the way, they didn't do the audit that you're talking about. They didn't audit, like, is this the path that I should be on? Do I really love this? Am I doing this just because of the paycheck? You know, so.
Well, and then they're locked into who other people think they are because of that title or that role. Right. And so they're scared to be anything else, or they don't know how to be anything else. We just dropped the book, You're Next, and we talk about, like, leaving behind that identity that's tied into the thing that you do. A lot of times you go to a party and people introduce themselves, and they introduce themselves by what they do to earn money.
Have you seen Trevor Noah's Netflix special? He got a whole bit on that.
Yeah.
But he's talking about the French, and he says most people, when you ask him, so what do you do? He said most people are like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a teacher, yada yada. He said the French, they're like, oh, I play tennis, I walk. So they tell you about who they are versus, and then he said something to the effect, no, what do you do for a living? And the French are like, I breathe, I drink water. You know, they don't get into, you know, their vocation. Yeah. Yeah. Or that identity of whatever.
Well, I think it is vocation. And I think too many people have tied their identity to that vocation, especially founders, entrepreneurs. Yeah. Hustle culture, right? I don't sleep. I grind. I sleep less than you, and that's a point of pride. Or I work more hours than you, and that's a point of pride. I don't live to work. I don't think that's the game.
So like, you live to, because I noticed, I think you said you hit a milestone.
Yeah, a new peak.
Relative to the number of days you didn't work in 2023. Yeah. So what's the goal? Is it 365?
So no, because I actually enjoy work, right? Okay. But what I learned.
Why do you think we call it work?
Because it is work.
But I wonder if there's another name for it other than work. You know what I'm saying? Because work just sounds backbreaking.
You're a biblical scholar. What did they call it in the Bible?
Stop it.
What did they call it in the Bible?
You poking the bear.
I think they said the man must work or he doesn't eat or something like that.
If you don't work, you don't eat. But it just seems like it's just so, you know, I was about to say laborious, but it is, work. But anyway, because for a lot of people, work isn't work.
Well, and I mean, there's just a negative connotation tied to it for a lot of people because they do things that they don't enjoy. Right. for me, I count the number of days that I don't work because there were so many years where I worked almost every day.
So I had a discussion earlier. I sit on this board and we're talking about, so there are some people who want to change their comp plan on this board that I sit on, right? Some of the employees, for lack of a better term. And they were justifying their value and the amount of time they spend, right? And they were like, I always work. They're like, I don't turn this off.
Yeah.
Right.
So they deserve more money.
What is, yeah. So what exactly is like, so when you said you didn't work, 163 days?
It was 163. Yes, sir. So
on the days that you count in those 163, you didn't think about, you didn't pick up, you didn't read, you didn't do anything tied to your work.
When I think about when I count a day as a day off, I didn't open my computer.
Okay.
I didn't meet with somebody with the expectation for some type of exchange, and I didn't do text messages or
no email,
no. And so when I say I didn't open my computer, I didn't go into those things that are related to.
That's wow. I don't even, I can't.
It's intentional though. So in the space, the wealthier people I get around, the more I realize that the value is created in the space in between the places or points of creation, right? So the work for me is a point of creation. You're taking and building something and then you're delivering it to the world, whether it's through an exchange like this or doing something on a computer, drawing something, whatever your talent is.
Right.
And so I guess a better way to describe it is I didn't share my talent with the world in exchange for some compensation. Could I go volunteer and do something? Yeah, but I wouldn't consider that a work day because it was me giving versus expecting to transact.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of, an element in the formula of success or in wealth a lot of times is work hard.
Yeah.
But I know people that work really, really, really hard, like hard.
They're always the poorest people.
They're not wealthy.
They're always the poorest people.
Right.
The hardest workers have the least.
Yes. So
the hardest workers have the least. So especially,
folks.
Yeah, I think
bus tables. It's the hardest job ever.
When you're doing physical labor, for most people, they think that's the hardest work. Right. Thinking for a lot of people isn't considered to be hard.
Right.
Communicating for a lot of people isn't considered to be hard. But when you're using your body to create value, digging a ditch, cutting trees, general construction, like being a laborer, like those are minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
I'll never forget being in high school and had a minimum wage job. I was working at the movie theater and I went and saw one of the professors. She was actually my keyboarding teacher. And I told her I worked 40 hours and I made $250. And she laughed at me and she said, this is why you need to start a business, because if you don't, this is what is in store for you. Right. Now, she said, you can make more if you go get a college degree and then you have some professional skill set that they pay a little bit more for wage. But the true person that earns at a high level and creates wealth is a business owner. The only exception I've seen to that rule is being an executive at a large corporation. But even in that,
for 30 plus years.
For 30 plus years.
And you got stock options and you have all this other stuff.
But they become an owner, right? Even if the company lends the money to them to buy the stock,
they become an owner.
They're a meaningful owner.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And they can't sell their stock all in one fell swoop. Like they've got all these rules around their ownership to make sure that they're making decisions that are in alignment with the best interest of the company long term.
Right.
And so one thing that I also picked up is like, the time horizon that you think in is directly proportionate to the amount of wealth you have. So there's one thing for doing backbreaking hard work. There's another thing for, are you thinking about next week or are you thinking about the next generation?
Right.
when you're making the financial decisions you're making. Right. And for so many people, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do this weekend.
They're in survival mode, which is the worst place to be.
It's survival. There is no room for error.
Right.
And if there is an error, then you end up on your grandfather's porch asking for support.
Absolutely.
And when you're in that place, then it's on somebody else's terms, to your point.
100%.
And I think that the quicker you become independent, the quicker you realize that you don't ever want to be on somebody else's terms.
Right. Yeah. When I talk to, especially my kids, they talk about, getting out of the house and being free. I'm like, you don't want that. You want to be independent. You don't want freedom because, I know there's a group of people back in like 1865. They were free.
It didn't work out very well.
It didn't work out very well. They had zero independence, so they had to go back to the hand that fed them. And then the terms were different.
And so when we went on our family vacation this summer, we stopped at Whitney Plantation outside of New Orleans, and they told the story of the freed people and how they got them. And this is modern day. I guess that was in like the late 1800s. But the way that they got them back in bondage was they lent them money. Then they needed a job so that they could pay for the money that they borrowed, but they wouldn't pay them enough to be able to pay off the loan and the interest. And so because they couldn't pay off the loan and the interest, they ended up right back where they were a few years prior. But it was under different terms now.
So they didn't help them to change their lives. They just helped them to keep them down.
Well,
and we see a lot of that today.
It's 100%, right? And so for everybody out there who is in financial slavery, financial bondage, the question is, how long are you going to do that? And if you really take inventory on the things that you spent the money on, did they make you happy? Or did you do it because you wanted to impress somebody else?
Which never happens because they're impressed with the thing. They're not impressed with you because you have the thing.
So I keep hearing that statement. I'm like, well, what does that actually mean? Right? Because as a person...
Then on top of that, what's the value of the impression?
Well, what do you want from the impression is where it goes, right? I think most people want the person to believe that they are someone of high value.
Okay.
I look like I'm wealthy.
I'm in Belk's last night, right? Doing some Christmas shopping.
Last night.
Right? Why are you laughing, EA?
Because
there's a method to this madness, EA. There's a method to this madness.
Did you hear what he said? He said that you're shopping last minute. And I'm laughing because I was also shopping last minute.
There's a method to this madness. So I'm in Belk's. And I walk, once I come through the front door, I walk, 10, 15 steps. I see this case. I see these women looking in the mirror, modeling Louis Vuitton purses.
Yeah.
And I said, Belk sells Louis Vuitton?
They do now.
When did Belk start selling Louis Vuitton, right?
High-end fashion.
I'm like, nah. So I had to go.
You went to
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe my eyes, right? So I went to investigate, right? So I go over, and Belk has partnered with a reseller of high-end purses.
Yep.
Called What Goes Around Comes Around, I believe. I believe that's the name of it, right?
So they're doing it on consignment.
It's not consignment.
They're buying it and then
They buy it and then they buy it and then they fix them up. They refurbish the person.
Recondition.
So they got recondition. So they have all these. I'm like, but then they have their brand. So it's what goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. Louis is a lifetime guaranteed product. So if something's wrong, you send it to Louis, they fix it. If they can't fix it, they'll give you another purse or another whatever. All that's gone. So you don't get that with the
once you sell
what goes around comes around. So then I go to, wow. So does it matter if she got the purse from Paris, the Louis store, in pairs
For some
versus
people,
the
it does.
Belk in with what goes around comes around tag on it. Like, so has the value of Louis been diminished? So then I started doing this I just go down this rabbit hole in my brain about value and like,
It's all perception though.
and luxury. Is it still luxury because it's in Belk with a what goes around comes around tag on it?
What does it cost?
Oh, the prices are still ridiculous. No.
It's
Let me back up.
$1,000, right?
So this lady was looking at a purse that was $1,450, $1,450. That purse probably in Paris was about $3,500. Right. So, I mean, tremendous deal, but somebody just had it.
Was it a deal?
Yeah, it's a deal. $1,450 compared to
So she can look like she.
Here we go. The value. So it was this whole value. Like I said, I went down this rabbit hole on value and luxury. Like, what? And so then I said, my man, let me see that wallet. Right. So this is what I did because on my wife's Christmas list is a new wallet. Oh. She didn't say Louis Vuitton wallet. She didn't say that. So I said, let me see that wallet. So he gives me the wallet. You know, the ends are curled up a little bit because it's pre-used. You know, it's still a Louis Vuitton wallet. And I open it up and it has all the compartments. It has the bag that comes with it.
Don't take that to Monica.
And it has a tag on. Did I tell you how much it costs?
Don't take it to Monica. I don't care how much it costs.
It costs $650, right?
Don't take that to Monica.
Normally that's probably about a $1,500 wallet, right?
Not take that to Monica.
And so I said, nah, thank you. But no, thank you. But what's crazy is I might have paid $3,000 or what, $1,500 for the real Louis Vuitton wallet. Well, I wouldn't pay it because I mean I'm
from an authorized retailer.
I'm off luxury, yeah. But anyway, that was an interesting like exercise for me because I was like Louis Vuitton and Belk, and then I just went through this. Is it still Louis Vuitton? Is it still valuable? Yada 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 yada.
I mean, just to piggyback off of that, Burberry's kind of been in the news too about how like they've been kind of struggling with like rebranding and basically like the whole luxury aspect, and it's kind of like dying down.
So would you buy? First question. Would you buy a used Lamborghini?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't buy new cars.
Okay.
Ever.
Would you buy a used Lamborghini off of a buy here, pay here lot?
No, sir.
Why?
That kind of went over my head. What's a buy here, pay here? Like what's that?
Buy here, pay here. It's a pretty sweet game, but it's you got to question the scruples. So buy here, pay here lot is where a cat goes to an auction, gets a car, and then let's say the car he pays $1,000 for the car, brings it back, puts a sales price of $3,000 on the car, and then when you go there, you can buy that car there, and then you can pay for it there. He'll do the financing, but he will charge you $1,000 up front, your down payment, which is the cost of the car. So now everything is gravy for him, and if you don't make your payments, he'll come back and get the car, do it all over again.
And he's going to give you a very high interest rate.
A very high interest rate.
And the thought is you just keep recycling it. But I mean, with that said, I think the other piece of buy here, pay here is it doesn't have a flag. It doesn't have one of the major auto manufacturers like being sold at the dealership with new cars. So not a Toyota or Ford. It's just going to be all used cars.
Somebody who had a parcel on the corner of a block and put some cars there and called it car lot. But why wouldn't you buy the Lambo from buy here, pay here?
Well, one, I'm looking for longevity. I would like to believe that the dealership's going to be there if I ever need to bring the car back. Two, I want to buy it from a place that can service it. And the buy here, pay here place is not going to service it.
They got a contract with the guy up the street that services
I understand
Lambos.
that. I'll go to the guy up the street.
But so does it devalue the Lamborghini if it's on a buy here, pay here lot?
I don't know if it devalues the actual vehicle, but it devalues my perception of what is actually valuable.
So would you buy Louis out of Belk with what goes around comes around tag on?
I do not buy purses.
We had that combo.
It must
EA.
Well,
Jerome was about to buy a Birkin.
yeah. So I mean,
he sent me the Birkin. Was like, dude, what do you think? And I'm like, get it.
I mean, it's a portable bank account right there.
What, the Birkin?
No, Birkins. I mean, no, Birkins hold their. No, I'm saying they hold their value. They gain value. That's what the whole thing is.
Louis Vuitton is canvas.
So the whole story of Louis Vuitton, for the listeners, for the watchers, you should go look up the history of Louis Vuitton, because it's mind blowing that this is a luxury brand today, because that is not the roots of Louis Vuitton.
Yeah,
or Louis Vuitton.
Great, definitely a great story. Invention is the mother of necessity, and why he chose canvas versus leather is just
But it's all branding at the end of the day.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
It's all branding and your ability to get people to perceive that something is valuable.
Right.
But I mean, coming back to the comment of they don't respect you, they respect the thing, or the thing that you bought, or the thing that you built. One of the R's that I've been focused on in the past 6 months or so is respected. Mm-hmm. So if it's not the things you have, then how do you become someone that's respected?
I think it's the value that you bring others. I don't know. I mean, I just believe, like, if I can add value to your life and like change your life, or help change your life, or help push you to the next level, or help you hit whatever it is that you think is valuable to you right then and there, I think that's how.
And so I measure relationships in two ways: the capacity and contribution. And so we actually grid it out and we give them a quadrant. And so you can be high capacity, high value, or high capacity, high contribution, low contribution, low capacity. And so 4 quadrants, right? So high capacity, high contribution, high capacity, low contribution, et cetera, et cetera. Low, and low, high. And the goal is to take an assessment of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you want to rate them on whether they're high capacity, high contribution, and see which quadrant they actually fall.
Do you think it matters that it's 5? You think
so does it matter? No. Okay. Most people are going to tell me they don't have 5.
Right.
Especially men.
Right.
Especially men. But I say 5 because
5 friends, 5 associates.
I say the 5 people you spend the most time with, and don't say your wife and your 4 kids.
Got it.
Or your husband and your 4 kids. Like, put the kids
outside
in
of the immediate family. Who are the people you donate your time to?
Yeah. And so the 5 comes from, I guess, I don't know if Jim Rohn was the first one to say it, but one of the gurus of the day said the 5 people you spend the most time with are going to have the biggest impact on your life. I think that statement's wrong. I think it's the expectations of the 5 people that you spend the most time with has the greatest impact on your life. And you're like, what's the difference? Well,
so you don't believe birds of a feather flock?
I think birds of a feathers, when it comes to expectation, flock.
Okay.
So if people are luxury, right? If they're the person who aspires for the luxury bag will spend time with people who have the luxury bags because that's what they aspire to.
Got it.
If the person doesn't like luxury bags or shoes, they're probably not going to be interested in going to Belk to find out if they can get a good deal on it.
That's interesting. So in therapy, one of the things that I learned is that men
here we go.
have the relationships that men have.
Yep.
They're typically tied to some affinity. And when that affinity goes away, typically that relationship dissolves.
100%.
Unless it was rooted in, a battle against a common enemy. Right? Yeah. So like I think of like one of my absolute best friends is a guy named Sam Pompey. Sam and I met in a sandbox when we were 6 years old. We've never, outside of after high school, we've never lived in the same city. Same state, but never in the same city. We probably see each other 2 to 3 times a year. Yeah. Not every day. We probably talk to each other 6 times a year. But I consider him like one, and we'll drop everything for that dude. versus there are other people that I, may have spent time with every day, but I don't have them as high as I do Sam in the pecking order as it relates to friendship.
Well, I think part of that is when you met them, right? Because you're still in that identity forming process.
Yeah.
And most people don't ever break from that, right? Who they ended up being at 8 or 10 is who they are at 50.
Period.
And for some people, it's when they die.
Right.
They don't ever come to the place where they say, oh, yeah, I don't want that anymore. Let's move over here.
It's hard to etch and sketch that thing just to go
shake it,
get a clear frame again to start over.
Unless something tragic happens and forces the reflection, divorce, losing a kid, losing a spouse, stuff like that will make people question everything. But in general, we don't question the things that we know to be true. And so if that has been a consistent thing along the way, then I think it ends up being that way. But yeah, back to your point about being respected comes from your ability to contribute value to other people in some way, shape, or form. And I just think about building capacity and your willingness to contribute to the effort that the person is working on, or not. And it's interesting that you use the word donate. Donate is such a powerful word because I think we do have a choice in who we spend our time with and how much of our time we spend with them. I'll hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, well, that's my brother or that's my mom and they feel like they're indebted to them.
Obligatory.
And that's not true.
Right.
At least not in my world. And, the people in the comments may fry me for it. But at the end of the day, if you're investing your time with people who are not going to create a mutually beneficial relationship with you, which is high capacity, high contribution, then you're going to end up in a space. And this goes back to an episode we had a few weeks ago where you're surrounded by takers. Right. If they're not contributing and they don't have capacity, they're going to be net takers. And I think there's a difference between being a taker and being a receiver. Yeah. Because being open to receive is a necessary part of relating with people, unless you want to teach them to abuse you. But I think it's really important that people are spending time with, especially that 5. You want at least 3 of the 5 to be high capacity. I find that a lot of Apex performers don't actually end up in that space. At least 3 will be low capacity. And when they're
low, does that lend to the thought of, or the saying, it's lonely at the top? Like those Apex cats, find themselves so if there's an issue or a problem, they're like ain't got nobody to go to but me, and I am limited to what I know, so what I can do.
I think lonely at the top is, you can have a whole lot of people around you and still be lonely.
100%.
I've experienced that 100%. On so many different levels. And so what is lonely is, I'd like to define that operationally for the conversation before we dive deep on.
So for me, lonely, when I think of lonely, again, it's when you need someone or something and you are almost isolated because of lack of relationship or lack of access, and you find yourself on an island and you don't tap into the resource or resources that you need.
Yeah. So right. So what happens is, from my perspective, the Apex performers rise to the top, hence Apex, right? And I call them being wolves on their own mountain. So everybody's at the top of their mountain, howling at the moon. Right. You can hear the other wolves howling, but you can't get to them. Yeah. And if somebody attacks you, they can't help you, right? Right. And what I believe is most valuable is when you can get those people to come together. Right. Right. Get them to come down off their mountains and then come up a common mountain together and rest.
Because you will, I had a, Wake Forest University used to do, well, they still do. I'm just not participating anymore, but they have these things called forum groups. You familiar with forum groups? And so I became a member of a forum group. And so I was real hesitant going into this forum group because it's all entrepreneurs that was in my group. Up and down the scale in terms of like value of their companies and different experiences, how large they were, et cetera, where they operated out of, you know, how many sites, or it was just a lot of variables, right? So I was a little like one thought was, what am I going to add to this conversation, right? Because of where I felt like I was compared to several of the people in the room.
Yeah. This goes to others' perception of you. This is self-image, right?
And you know what? We all had the same problems.
100%.
Regardless if it was the guy who had a $90 million company or the person in the room that had a $5 million company. We all had the same problems. And everybody was able to contribute and to help everybody.
Because they had
based on their
experience.
experiences.
Yep. And that's why diversity is so important whenever you're forming the groups. I get a little wary when it's like, oh yeah, well, this group's only for people who have 7-figure net worths, or this is only for people who are centimillionaires, or this is only for women, or like I struggle with that because I know what a diverse room can do. But in the same breath, I will say there are certain problems that kind of get stuck at the survival level. Right. For folks who are in survival, like if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're just trying to figure out the basics.
Food, shelter, clothing.
That's all they're trying to figure out.
Gotta eat.
And so a person who's got the luxurious problems, first world problems, whatever you want to call them.
So it's interesting. And so, the dude might come at me, but I don't care.
He'll be all right.
He'll be all right. So we're in there too. Here's the other experience, right? The other experience was what a problem to somebody. I'm sitting there going, that's it.
That's all you got.
So one dude, his son, picked Carolina over Wake.
Oh,
right.
Poor guy.
So, and
he was
their faith was alum.
Yeah.
But their faith was very important to him.
Oh.
So he picked the secular school.
Oh no.
And I'm using that word versus the Christian school.
Oh no.
Right. And so that was a major rub for their family. And I'm going, but the kid's going to Carolina. That ain't a bad school.
It ain't half bad.
That ain't bad at all, right? Yeah. But it was like we spent a bunch of time unpacking that problem and helping him through that problem. And most of the time, if I'm honest, I'm going, that ain't no problem.
Well, but it is a problem for him, right?
100%.
Because he decided that
and I think other people felt the same way, and we respected the fact that that's a problem for you, and that's all that mattered.
I think so many of us create things like something happens, and then we decide what it means for us in our life.
100%.
Based on the frame that we have.
Yep.
And then if we can't make it reconcile, right? If our experience doesn't meet our expectation, then for a lot of people it can crumble.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, is he going to be meaningfully different one way or the other? I think he believed that he would. And at the end of the day, it's for them to figure out.
Absolutely.
Right.
The kid had a great experience. But everybody was in love with Carolina.
But do you think that potentially the issue was like some people will take like, hey, like I went to Wake and that's like their part of their identity. And then that's what the real issue is like.
That's an issue. I don't know if it's the real issue. I mean, I believe the struggle that they were having because their son picked a school that wasn't Christian based. I believe that was a big struggle for the family. Not so much so the identity of Wake. I mean, that was probably a part of it, but I don't discount the fact that, they didn't want him at the party school. They wanted him at Wake's not a party school. You know what I'm saying? The perception.
Wait, what?
I know, right? So, but yeah, that's definitely an interesting perspective.
I have a question for Jerome.
What you got?
So when you talking about wolves on the top of their own mountain, right, and about getting them together, how do you kind of see ego get taken out of it? right? How do you see, like, how do they actually be able to, like, make it work?
Well, I mean, egos shouldn't be in the room anyway, right? The goal, if you're being vulnerable, ego can't sit there. There is no space for it because you have to show your true self. Ego isn't who you really are. It's who you're trying to make the world believe you are. And the fact of the matter is we don't ever really know what other people are thinking. We might, if we're empathic, if we have that gift, we might be able to feel what they feel, but we don't ever actually know what they think unless they share that with us. And so your desire to present something to other people is just the ego. And from my perspective, the ego must die. The ego is a piece of you that is not beneficial in any way, shape, or form. I think it puts you in a place where you
beneficial in war, battling.
I think that your commitment or your connection to delivering the outcome, completing the mission, can be independent of your ego. I think your commitment to completion is different than your ego. I think.
So you don't think there's any benefit to ego?
I haven't seen it. I think ego has been seen as the way to get you to push through, but I think you can commit to yourself. You can make a promise to yourself that will allow you to do that independent of your ego. I don't think your ego is your identity, and I think that's where so many people get trapped.
No, your ego is not your identity. I think the ego is your, I don't know what it is. I don't know the best definition for your ego. The ego is the personality that defends your everything.
But if you're defending, then you can't be in a space of love because you can't receive.
If I'm defending, I can't be in a space of love.
There is there's no ability to receive when you're in defense. There is no acceptance when you're in defense. So you go in and you give somebody at the health center feedback and they're defending the whole time. They can't hear you. They're just trying to figure out how they're going to counter whatever you have to offer to them. Right. Versus them receiving the thing, going to think about it, process it, then potentially coming back if they don't believe something is accurate. But at the end of the day, if they don't ever hear or receive what you're offering to them, then like your feedback was all for nothing.
Right. And I think like I've been in rooms where like with really like uber wealthy people
100%.
And they give the most. They're like in terms of a lack of ego or not being pretentious, and they're very vulnerable and willing to share and to give info and to, kind of bring you along.
I had that experience last Friday. I was in a room with centimillionaires and above, shook a couple of billionaire hands. And I was sitting at a table with a guy. We were eating and we were just getting to know each other. Right. And he was telling me some of the craziest stories that I've ever heard in my life. His daughter and his son-in-law were sitting there. He was telling me how he created opportunities for them. He talked about how his mother took a job at a university so he could get a free education. And that was the pivot point for him. And now it's why he's donating the money that he's donating back to the university. We went all over the place. And this guy happened to be a widower. And so 5 years ago, his wife died of bladder cancer.
Wow.
And in that conversation, I asked him something, and maybe I shouldn't, but I was curious. I was like, what was your favorite memory with your wife? And he was like, he paused and he really reflected, and he's like, the Amalfi Coast. He's like, my kids and my wife was there, and they were out the house and they were independent, and we realized that we'd done well, and that felt like an achievement or accomplishment. It was something that we always hoped for, right? And I was like, wow.
It was dope.
So he just told me, he was just at this level of vulnerability with somebody he just met. And it's not uncommon for people to share things with me that they don't share with most people, but it was just the armor was gone.
Right.
Right. And it was, here I am, you're a human, I'm a human. Let's just connect over our experience. Right. And I think a lot of people, when they meet folks who are of means, they want to convince them that they are
right
at the same financial status as them, or that they have these things or that things. Right. And at no point did we ever talk about how much money we have or how much money we donated. Or you
didn't talk about his boat. Or
he didn't. He told me he talked about a boat because he talked about his boat because it was a story of him like jumping it onto a bridge, and like everybody that I'm meeting, and this is probably something worth actually just dropping in for the listeners. I'm finding that there's 5 shadow characteristics of an apex performer. And one of the shadow characteristics is a near-death experience. And so one of my favorite questions to ask people now is, have you had a near-death experience? Right. Especially if I know that they've built something big. Right. I know that there's a story. Right. I've heard everything from being in a building next to a building that was blown up by terrorists to multiple plane crashes to this boat thing to, I had a head-on accident with a dump truck. Like, you can go down the list, and like they've have these stories, and then you'll see them as inflection points, right, where something changed. And I think when we go back to the 8 or the 10-year-old person, it's like, oh, well, you have one of these events and it forces you to change. You lose your spouse. It forces you to change because everything's different now. Right. Especially if you've been with a person longer than you hadn't been with them when you think about the span of your life. So there's the near-death experience, there's total financial ruin, it's suicidal ideation tied to the pressure to perform, which I think is something that a lot of men struggle with. And then losing somebody when they're young, that is one that a lot of people experience. And then the last one,
I mean, like a friend or family member,
or family, somebody they're close to.
Yeah.
Somebody that they're close to. And this is like pre-15. And then the last one is feeling like they only got love for their parents when they achieved or accomplished something. Like those 5 things are the ones that seem to callous the person enough to be able to go through the struggle to build this thing, and also the pressure to actually make them do kind of extraordinary things. And when I find that people haven't had those, they struggle to get out of mediocrity. All 5.
Really?
I've been through all 5.
Check 4 out of 5. Check 4 out of 5. That's interesting. How do we sharpen our saw?
Well, it's funny you brought up the forums, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a peer mentorship model. Yeah. And I think that is something that most people don't ever get the opportunity to get exposed to. Right. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out here are running around trying to figure it out on their own, or get in there.
I think I need to add this part, and it ain't because I don't care to impress nobody, but everybody had to pay $10,000 to be in the thing.
That's it.
Yeah, $10,000.
This must have been a while ago.
It was 3 years ago. It was was it pre-COVID? It was pre-COVID.
Must be because it's not that cost. That's a cost thing.
Yeah, it's pre-COVID.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We met once a month and went to lake houses and stuff like that. It's the first time I spent the night with a bunch of white people. Yeah. And I had to speak at a farm, like had to speak at like a recruitment lunch. And I told everybody that. I said, first time I spent the night with a bunch of white people and they didn't eat me. So it was all right. And we made it through. But yeah, so I'm just saying that to say that oftentimes you got to invest in you.
Well, and so earlier on, I was saying, hey, you saw the value of education because you were going to figure out how not to ever ask somebody else to pay for your education again. Right. I think there's a lot of different ways. I was going down the path of, entrepreneurs trying to figure it out on themselves or getting information from their favorite Instagram celebrity or TikTok influencer. And
can't talk about that. Lynch involved me not to talk about that.
Well, I mean, but it is
talk about the.
It is what it is.
The favorite Instagram gurus.
We don't
co-signed it, so I can't talk about that.
We
but
don't.
You can.
We don't have to call them by name. It's just important that people know that many of the influencers are just that. They're influencers. They've been able to create a perception of their success and then use that success to get other people to give them money as a result of it, and not ever actually built anything.
Right.
I just think there's a fine line between, and like influencer and practitioner. So like I think that's a part of it where there's some people who do practice that use social media and they get bunched into that same kind of like bucket, right? And and it's kind of like it's like little respect towards it, but I feel like it doesn't happen in like other spaces other than our own for the most part. Unless maybe I'm just biased because I only see black media for the most part.
If you're able to, let's be clear: the people who market the best are the people who make the most money. They are the people who are most well known. If they don't know you, they can't flow you. So I used to feel like there was nobility in not being known. I used to think that it was great that you were the best kept secret and nobody knew about you. Now I just think it's idiotic. Right? Like at the end of the day, if you want to serve, if you want to help, then people have to know something about you to know that you can actually deliver that. And you're real versus something that's fabricated. Content that's created versus content that's documented.
That's lived. Right. Documented.
Right. Yeah. So lived experience is a place that I go. So I don't think that the answer for sharpening your saw is Instagram and this micro learning stuff that people are kind of pushing to the surface now. Right. I think it's getting off your mountain and getting on the same mountain as other Apex performers and having the conversation with them about the things that you don't have answers to because your network hasn't experienced them, or you think you have the answer, but you want to talk to somebody who's actually been through it before.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why people think opinions are valuable. Opinions aren't valuable. Right. Counsel is valuable. People who've been through it, or people who have watched somebody else go through it and been able to ask questions about that journey that they went on
100%.
Is what's actually valuable. And it's what I believe should be brought to the marketplace.
A lot of times the wolves don't know about the other wolves. And they definitely don't know where they're meeting at.
But they hear them.
They hear them.
They can hear them howling at the moon.
They can hear them, but they don't know. They don't know where they are. And then they don't know how to meet. They don't know how to get together.
So it's funny you bring that up because I've watched you sit in a group of men who I don't know, but I suspect they have aspirations to achieve or accomplish some of the things you've done. Maybe not all, but some. And I will go out on a limb to say less than 2 of them have actually asked you questions about the journey.
And that means that they don't have aspirations to do stuff that I've done. To me.
Well, but they say they do.
We know action speaks louder than words.
But I think it's an ego thing. Because the moment I come and say, hey, Rod, how'd you do it? That immediately lets you know.
Dude, that's my formula for life.
For life. I
swear, I don't care.
I will ask anybody anything and I don't care what they think about me as a result of me asking a question.
Right.
And if I don't know, I don't know. And for me, there's no embarrassment in that.
I swear.
But the ego piece of that has to go away. You have to be willing to be vulnerable in order to receive. And so I would say that the moment that they say that, they remove all doubt on whether or not they are as successful as they are trying to lead everybody else to believe that they are.
Right.
And I have learned that you can't fool a person that's ahead of you. You can only fool the people that are behind you. And so if I walk in a room with people who are centimillionaires and I try to pretend that I'm a centimillionaire, they're going to know
Right, they gonna peep
within
you.
3 minutes
Right, they're gonna peep that out.
that this ain't true.
Right.
And then they're going to be trying to figure out, well, what is actually true, or is any of it true?
Why is he here?
How did he get here?
Right.
Right. Because you had to walk past security to get in there,
Get
right?
in there, right.
So how did they see him? Like,
Right.
what's going on?
Exactly.
And yeah, you can't miss
Peep
me,
that
right?
out. Right.
But so I think there's a ton of ego. And I think a lot of it goes back to chattel slavery, right? That's why the person who has the least spends the most in order to look like they have more, versus playing in their lane, using that to create more so that they can actually have the thing. I've never actually wanted to look wealthy. I wanted to be.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I wanted to be. And it drove it has driven my woman crazy.
Why? Because you don't want to look.
I don't want to look.
I could.
I could care less if anybody thought, but there is some, in hindsight, there is a lot of credence to her perspective. Because if I aspire to be a beacon, right? If I aspire to attract people who are interested in learning how to actually do the real thing, and I don't present in a way where they are paying attention to it, or they want to ask a question about it, then they'll just assume that I'm worse off or at the same position they are in.
Like wealthy people, like wealthy people. You have to go to their island.
It's crazy
to know that they're wealthy. They don't wear their island on their back or around their neck. You have to get on their jet. They don't wear or drive around in their jet. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at their Merrill Lynch account or their Goldman Sachs account. They don't wear the Goldman Sachs account or ride around in it on their wrist or their neck or whatever, right? So I guess that's where I am. So I you know what I'm saying? I give me an island instead of a you know, a freaking Bugatti. So that's just where I am.
Well, and you enjoy those things, right? When we think about some of your purchases post exit, you bought things that were going to create experiences, right? And things that were going to create wealth, right? When you think about the beach house as an example, that was an opportunity to create experiences for the family. In addition to that, you get the opportunity to rent it out. For other people, they want others to see. For me, for example, I'm doing a rally in May. We're driving from Chicago to New Orleans.
Nice.
You got to
have a rally. Bugatti rally.
It's a supercar rally.
A supercar rally. What you gonna have? Let me guess.
We're gonna have a car. We're gonna have a vehicle.
What you gonna have?
We're gonna have a proper vehicle.
What you gonna have?
It's gonna allow us to
Rod, it's gonna be the
drive the speed limit.
It's gonna be the Birkin meetup. That's what it is.
The what?
The Birkin meetup.
The Birkin meetup.
It's not gonna be a Birkin. We're gonna have a appropriate vehicle to allow us to drive the speed limit from Chicago to New Orleans.
Is it a race?
It is not a race.
Okay.
It's a rally.
It's a rally.
And we're going to follow
a rally a race?
No, we're going to drive the speed limit.
About. Okay.
We're going to drive fast cars the speed limit.
Well, EA wouldn't know. He's too young.
The Cannonball Run is
yeah.
That's a race.
That's a race. That's not a rally? I thought they referred to it as a rally. No? Okay.
That's a Cannonball Run.
All right.
That's how fast can you get across the country.
Got it. All right.
And they did it with a Tesla, just so you know, and they've done it with a bunch of other vehicles. But the record's like 28 hours.
That's amazing.
New York or Connecticut to
Cali. LA. Wow. Okay, you're having a rally.
Yeah. And so for me, that's an experience. We went to the Tail of the Dragon back in October.
Which is, I have no idea what that is.
So the Tail of a Dragon is one of the top 5 driver roads in the country. It's got 318 turns and 11 miles.
Wow.
And it goes from some small town in North Carolina to the other side is in Tennessee. It is. And so we joined about 75 other cars.
It's in the mountains. It's in the mountains.
It's in the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah. We joined about 75 other cars, and we spent a day driving that and the Churhala Trail and a couple of other places. And you are able to meet other people who have disposable income to buy vehicles of that nature. I brought my family, so I brought my woman and my 2 princesses, and we spent the day in the car, me getting to do something that I love to do, which is drive, and them talking about the things that they saw, the people they saw,
them grabbing the handles.
Actually, nobody grabbed handles.
Nobody grabbed handles?
Nobody
they used to it by
handles.
now. That's what it is.
You get used to it eventually, right? But getting water and all of the things,
right?
Pulling up, shutting down the gas station, like all of the things that I envisioned before I bought the car. We don't, but we probably will have jackets for. We will probably have some type
jackets
of
and the gloves, the whole nine. Y'all got to have the jackets and the gloves.
Now I've seen people. Now that's I've seen Porsche drivers with that type of stuff. I'm not quite that refined.
You said supercar. I don't have a supercar, man.
Supercars. There's different types of supercars, and there's different stigmas attached.
Have a cup holder.
I think cup holders are necessary.
Okay.
I think cup holder. You got to have a bottle of water at least.
Okay.
At least, because if you're working, if you're driving, then you're working. There's going to be some sweat. Think about. I guess F1 drivers don't have cup holders, but they lose 5 pounds when they're during a race, and the race is only like 2 hours. So it's hard work.
That's what's up.
But again, it's about the experiences from my perspective that you can create. I don't ever believe that it's actually about the things.
Okay.
I've got friends who own multiple Lamborghinis, and there are events for Lamborghini owners. And
it's like golf clubs. They gotta have if they go to these events and they show up, they gotta have a nice set of clubs. So they gotta have the Lambos for the Lambo events.
For the Lambo event. I've got a buddy that's going to do a supercar rally over in, I don't know, Venice or something, right? And so
I bet that's dope.
Yeah, that's a September thing. I'm trying to figure out how we make it there. But like,
so you gonna ship your car over to Venice?
No, it's included in the fee.
Oh, okay.
It's included in the fee. But the goal though for that is, one, to network with other people, 2, see parts of the country that you wouldn't see otherwise. Yeah. And it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And so for me, cars really takes it to the journey place.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're not going to get, it's not the most efficient way to get to anywhere that you're going.
Right.
But there's the experience of it. It's the marvel of it. And so if I go back to 6-year-old me and seeing this car or that car, or going to the book fair and getting the poster of the Lamborghini or the Ferrari Testarossa, then thinking, maybe one day I could possibly have that if potentially things worked out in the right way.
Yeah.
I never put a poster of an island up, but I get why people have islands. I get why people have boats. I get why people have planes. Flying private is a totally different experience than flying first class.
Right.
But for the people who've only flown coach, they're going to say there's no difference between the seats in the front of the plane and the back of the plane, and you're still going to get there at about the same time.
Right.
And your bags are going to be pretty much in the same place. But that extra 30 minutes you spend loading versus unloading when you're in coach, the nutritional value of the snacks is like, it's night and day.
I went to the calorie count.
Well, I mean,
protein.
It's a different experience,
it's
right?
It's a totally different experience.
And then even the fatigue 100%. That your body feels comparing one seat selection to the other.
Right.
And until you actually experience the things, you don't ever know. And international travel private compared to doing something commercial, it's completely different.
Right.
You get off the jet, they stamp your thing and you walk through.
Right.
I don't see any dogs.
So your bag's not getting sniffed?
I don't have a guy asking me for my customs form. Right. Nobody wants to run my bag through a scanner. None of those things happen when you do it that way. So like, it's just a different experience. And I don't say that there's anything wrong with either of them, but I think that once you experience it, you can't enjoy going back.
Right. It's a expansion. Like the first time you fly first class, it's like you never ever want to walk past first class again.
You don't ever want to go through.
Never want to, like, I'm going to figure out a way not to fly coach ever again in life. The first time you do it. I went to a NASCAR race in Sonoma, and again, I mean, there's life lessons, you know, all over the place, man. And we met this guy. So one of the guys with us, with my small group, shout out Tony. He does a lot of things, but one thing he is a cigar connoisseur. And Tony was smoking a cigar. Another cigar connoisseur was like, what you got there? What you puffing on? And it went from that conversation to us in this guy's
box.
Now we're already in a box, but he said, we're leaving here. We're going up the street because he has a restaurant / ranch / shooting range / but it went from a conversation about a freaking cigar. And then he told another story. Another one of Tony's friends told a story about he judges people's character based on the cigar that they're smoking. Well, and says, I don't have to know anything about the guy if I know what kind of cigar he's smoking.
So I do that with vehicles. I think the vehicle is an extension of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
The people who say it's A to B, it's about practicality. There is no magic about it. It's just how can I do the minimum in order to get the thing? And I mean, if that's who you are, that's fine. But for me, in a lot of ways, that's not who I am. The other thing that I see people use, they use watches to gauge where the person is and how they're doing. I was listening to one guy explain to me the complications in the watch. I was like, I don't even. There's complications in the movement. Right. And I don't even know how to say the T word. Right. Triboulian or something like that. Right. But if it has that, then it's $100,000 plus for something that's a very normal looking watch. Right. At the party, one guy had on a Patek Philippe watch, and I guess it had a crocodile strap. And when I went later to figure out what one of those would cost me, it was $500,000 for that particular model.
Watch. Right.
And then I saw another watch that they were talking about while we were there because another guy had one of those. And I mean, it was just this list of 5 of some of the most expensive watches in the world. And and it wasn't because they had all these diamonds. It wasn't because of this. It was the inner workings. Like they will go on and talk about how the watch has more parts than your F-150.
Right.
And I was just like, I don't understand how these things are possible or why I would want to wear somebody's house on my wrist. Right. But the fact of the matter is for them, that meant something.
It meant something.
And I mean, there's one guy who's got this black enamel Royal Oak. What watch is it? I can't remember the make of the watch right now, but he told me the story about they had an armored truck back up to his house. 2 guards get out. They open the back. They pull out the money bag, deliver the watch to him in his house after locking the door, have him sign the form before they cut the bolt off so that he can have the watch. And I'm like,
that's different.
I think it's an Audemars.
Audemars?
It is an AP. It is an AP. Anyway, so the watch is $500,000, right? It's totally clear, so you can see all the way through to his skin. And we were actually on a plane with him, and I was like, can I see the watch? And then he pulls out his black card. Or actually, he pulled out his wallet by accident. I was like, is that a black card? He's like, yeah. I was like, I've never held one. May I hold one, please? And he was like, I was with this guy, And I was going through my cards, and I pulled out a platinum Amex card, and my buddy said, I didn't know they made those in silver. And he was like, so that's why I have this one on top.
Wow.
Not because I want people to know I have one, but because my buddy jabbed me that way.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, you know, anyway.
So what's the best way to pull these wolves together?
Well,
Like if we wanted to pull wolves together, how do we go about pulling wolves together? And then how do we go about making the experience of them being pulled together valuable for everybody involved?
well, I think it's valuable just by the fact that people are together.
Okay.
Right? If you put valuable people in a room, value will be created. But I think as curators of the experience, it's very easy to put programming together that's going to create a space for people to, one, find the value themselves, because it's not us giving them value, it's them mining the value while they're in the experience. How do we get people together? I think it's actually launching the mastermind that we've been talking about for months.
Got it.
And giving people the space and the place to actually come in and take their armor off and have an honest conversation about what's going on so that they can get the support that they need in order to continue the journey. I think about it like running a marathon. You're out here running and you're tired, but if there's nobody out there holding the Gatorade or passing out the water cups, you're just out there running.
Right.
And this, I think over a year, if you're able to get 4 water stations for people to kind of come in and have that conversation and then do some stuff in between, but maybe it's not face to face, you end up in a great situation where people are continually refueled and they know where the next water station is so that they can make it through to that spot.
I can't imagine anyone aspiring to be a wolf not being a part of that.
Well, I see a lot of people do it and they say, oh, well, you know, what do they know that I don't know? It always comes back to ego when they don't jump into stuff like this.
So getting back to my boy Sam, I used to send Sam books, right? And I would send him a book. He was like, okay, cool. Send him another book. So he was like, dude, you're sending me the same book. It was different titles, but similar concepts. I said, Sam, all you need is a sentence.
One sentence.
All you need is a paragraph.
Nugget.
Look for the jewel in this book. The books are similar just because of where I am right now, mindset, what I'm searching, what I'm doing. But bruh, don't discount it because you know it's on a similar topic. And so look for the nugget. What's
funny though is when people are, you can read the same book and have a different experience.
Yeah,
right.
Facts.
Just because your circumstances change.
Facts.
And so when I go back through books that I read in the past, I'm a different person today than I was when I read it the first time.
Absolutely.
And you know, those folks who already know everything aren't the ones that are going to come to this because this is about tweaking. This isn't a complete and radical transformation. This is about a tweak that's going to get asymmetric return. And if you can just change this one thing, right? Your business could be going great, but things in your family are awful.
Right.
Or things in your community are awful. You could be doing well financially, but your body is trash.
Right.
Trash.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to have to give up all your wealth to get your health back.
Right.
Or things can be going well and something's around the corner that's going to be hard for you. It could be a significant loss. It could be some type of setback.
And that's the best point, I think, to bringing all the wolves together, because you're right. It doesn't have to be. It could end up being a total transformation in a particular area, but oftentimes it's Motorola changing the color of their phones or adding color to their phones. 100%. They go from 5th to 1st because they just got different color phones. It was a simple tweak. That's it.
But it's all perspective, right? And this is the point, right? Like I was talking to Lynch the other day and I was like, you know, people aren't taking the proper posture. They're not ready to sit at the foot of sensei in order to get the nuggets. And so when you take that posture, you're looking for the thing.
Right.
You're looking for the thing that is different or you don't know versus coming into the room and wanting to sit beside them and say, yeah, I know everything you know.
Right. Or saying I sat beside him.
I sat beside him.
Yeah.
but when I know everything you know, and I'm just trying to compete on, I know as much as you know,
right,
versus looking for what you know that I don't know, or that you think about differently than I think about. Like, it's a totally different experience for the person.
And I learned that. So like having a software company, we created software for a specific reason, but our customers always told us another way to look at it or another way to use it. We're like, oh, I never thought about that. So that became a part of, became a part of a marketing campaign or even the sales pitch or the demo. You can use it for this, and a reason we never ever thought about, right? So you're absolutely right. Perspective is everything, and experience is everything. And we don't all have the same perspective. We don't all have the same experience.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, so to your point, like, I think this is a group of 15 to 25 people.
That's a lot.
Right. I think it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But it's 15 to 25 people who are ready for next level.
Right.
And when I say next level, I mean ready for a complete life, not one where they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to talk about my lack of resilience, or I'm not going to talk about the fact that my wife doesn't respect me, or I'm not going to talk about the fact that I've gained 25 pounds over the course of the last year, and I got fat in places I didn't even know existed. Right? Like, you're not hiding these parts of your life. In fact, you're like, I don't like this anymore. And between the people in this room, somebody knows how to make sure that this goes away.
Or 5 people have pieces to that puzzle 100%. That once they give you the pieces, now you have a complete thing to go battle whatever it is that you're trying to battle.
The other thing I think is the person is looking for accountability.
100%.
Right. They want to be in an environment that's going to force their standards to raise. They're not going to allow people, for example, to be late if that's something that they've been struggling with, or they're not going to be in a space where they miss. Right. Right. Where they're in fits and starts, because all big things are done through consistent action. Right. So, they're seeking something different. Right. They accept that what they've been doing, what they do have, is not what they want anymore. Right. Because changing the environment is the fastest way to change the way that you experience your world.
100%. 100%. So you think we're going to get 25 people?
I think there will be more that apply than get accepted. This isn't you pay your money, you get in. Like, this is vetting. Because once we open up the relationships, and somebody's got a problem, like, imagine being in a room where 2 phone calls can solve a problem that you have. Right. And the phone calls are to people who have capacity. Right. And so now I send somebody to my trusted relationship, and I don't really know them, and I'm introducing them to somebody who can fix the problem for them, and they burn it. Yeah. I'm not willing to do that. I've spent years cultivating.
That'll fix your capital, right? Yeah, your relationship capital.
I'm not doing that.
Not gonna do it. Well, cool, man. Well, we gotta let the people know when that launches. That people that are interested, man.
It's got to be early January.
And the thing about it is, like, you should be seeking that out anyway. If it's something that we launch, or whatever city you're in, whatever country you're in, you need to be seeking out, like-minded people, or seek wolves to go hang out in the room with wolves. Will it just be men?
I'm not a fan of that. I got 2 little girls, man.
Yeah, facts.
I don't want them to not be able to get access to the information.
And be in the room where it happens.
I think they should have direct access. And I think the women actually bring some glue to a community that wouldn't normally exist.
Women get things done, man.
And they also create
get things done.
There's always a level of accountability.
They get stuff done.
100%.
They get stuff done. They're like, what? Man, you got... Anyway, that's a whole nother pod, man. Cool, man. Appreciate you being here, man.
Man, I'm grateful for the opportunity, brother.
Man, L is busy playing Superman, doing what he does in the community, which is incredible, and I'm sure you'll hear about that. Yeah, it's a great conversation, man. Thank you. EA, you ain't got nothing else, man? Anything else? EA is shaking his head.
No, I'm good. We're good.
He's good, man. So we just want to thank you again for tuning in to the End Game Podcast, man. Please more than anything, share, tell somebody about this good news, subscribe to our channel. And with that, man, we're out. I'm Rod Brown.
I'm Jerome Myers.
Peace.
Peace.